A police officer was brutally murdered by a gang of criminals and dumped in the wilderness. His best buddy, Jimenez, who was also a police officer, decided to use his way to make the criminals return an eye for an eye. So he led several colleagues to find one of the gangsters, and under pressure, the gangster revealed the leader's location. While it was dark, they prepared to go to the location of the gangsters. After killing a doorkeeper, they successfully infiltrated the building where the culprit was located and locked the culprit's room. But just as they were about to carry out a demolition raid, the security guard of the building with a gun wanted to join because he made too much noise. The criminals inside noticed the anomaly and immediately counterattacked them. Jimenez was hit on the spot and was already dying. The bomb on the door was detonated, injuring another officer. Then an assailant came out from inside and immediately shot and killed the security guard who was the culprit. Because of this security guard, several people have not had time to revenge, and they were all arrested. Adewale immediately questioned their purpose of coming here, but their mouths were very hard, and they refused to say anything. Bola thought they were there to rescue the hostages, so they decisively emptied their magazines and killed the hostages. Faced with this group of murderous criminals, Wessam had to tell the truth. Knowing that a few people came to revenge for their colleagues, the murderous thugs decided to kill them to end the trouble. But they did not know that no one would leave there alive today, because at this moment, the city suddenly outbreak of an unknown virus, and a large number of zombies are quietly approaching the rotten building. As soon as Adewale killed Jimenez, an unusual noise came from the room where the hostages were being held, accompanied by a terrible hissing sound. Everyone was so scared and nervous that Adewale instructed his men to check it out. When he opened the door, a large hand suddenly grabbed him by the neck. The hostage had turned into a zombie. The criminals saw it and immediately pulled the trigger, but the bullets did not affect the zombie's body. The zombie was still alive and well and began to attack several people. Seeing one of the men being thrown to the ground, the two accomplices rushed up to punch and kick, which had no effect. Only when Adewale blew his head off with a gun did the zombie stop attacking. The shocked group was instantly dumbfounded. Bola had just killed the hostage, but before they knew what was going on, there was another hissing sound from the corridor. One of the men just went out to check and was dragged away by the zombies. Moreover, the two men who had just been bitten had also mutated. Everyone was in a huge panic. They couldn't care less about each other and started to run for their lives. Adewale, who was walking behind, fired a few shots but still couldn't stop the attack of the zombies, and the few remaining people were forced to flee to the rooftop, temporarily blocking the zombies inside. Bola, who had just been killing people like crazy, was terrified, but when they slowed down to look at the city in the distance, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. They saw the whole city in flames, smoke, a scene of the end of the world, and many zombies gathered downstairs. They were completely trapped in a rotten building. To escape from here alive, the vicious thugs and the police, representing justice, had to temporarily put aside their grudges and unite to fight the zombies. Only in this way will there be a chance of survival. Wessam and Adewale, after discussion, decided to go to the room just now to get weapons and then find a way to kill the siege. By this time, the corridor was no longer visible to the zombies, and even Jimenez, who had just been killed, had disappeared. After equipping their weapons, they started to evacuate downstairs. The dark corridor was quiet, and when they passed a room, there seemed to be a zombie inside. Aurora and the wounded police officer walking behind them did not dare to move. Suddenly a zombie rushed out and pounced on the police and soon disappeared. Aurora immediately followed. Then two more zombies attacked another few people. The gangster Rene did not have time to hide behind the door and was entangled in the zombie. The hands of the weapon accidentally dropped, and he had to start a physical battle with the zombie. Although he was able to beat the zombie with his sandbag fist, more zombies were approaching, and he had to hide behind the door. But as soon as he stepped in, a fallen walker bit his thigh, and the walker wouldn't let go. Adewale decided to break the door and window, a shot to kill the zombie, and then locked the door securely. Aurora's side also found the police officer dragged away the zombie, one person, and a corpse in the kitchen wrestling together. Aurora's fists were harder, and the zombie was soon knocked to the ground. Aurora took advantage of the situation and grabbed a tool and hit it wildly, then used the refrigerator to crush the zombie underneath. But unfortunately, the police officer has been bitten. Aurora knows the results of being bitten, so he takes out a pair of handcuffs and lets him lock himself up. But unexpectedly, fear of death. Teammates are not resigned to their fate but also pick up a tool to knock Aurora out. The other few people were about to go downstairs but suddenly saw a man in the corridor slaughtering zombies. When they got closer, It turned out to be an older man whose calm and relaxed look made it clear that he was a tough guy. He saw at once that a zombie had bitten Renee, so the older man took them back to his room. He was ready to treat Renee's wound because his thigh was infected and needed to be amputated to save his life. But Renee didn't believe it and said he didn't want to lose his leg, so the older man had to respect his choice. On TV, they saw the news that the whole city had fallen. The military had evacuated to the outer military base, where they had established a safe zone and received all the surviving humans. Hearing this news, Wessam decides to kill his way out to the safe zone, but Bola wanted to hold the building and did not want to risk going out, and he said he would kill anyone who dared to go out. Adewale pushes Bola to the ground, apparently on Wessam's side, which also draws Bola's displeasure. After getting everything ready, they set out as planned, but as soon as they left the room, a zombie appeared in the corridor and jumped on them. Bola broke the zombie's leg with one shot and looked at the fallen zombie. He didn't shoot it immediately but followed Renee and teased it. The older man saw how perverted it was, so he also chose to join in. When they were having fun, Adewale came up, killed the zombie away with a shot, and pressed Bola against the wall to educate him.
T'as déjà oublié? Tu te prends pour un dur? Ça t'amuse ce que tu viens de faire là? Quoi?
After education, Adewale went to the side and began to pry the door, and at this time, the Bola was silly. Renee, who did not mind the trouble, also came up to stir up trouble. At that moment, the door next to him suddenly opened, and it turned out to be the bitten police officer. Wessam rushed up to check his condition but was unexpectedly followed by Aurora, shot and killed. Wessam, unsure of the outcome, pushed Aurora to the wall and began educating her.
Il allait devenir comme eux. Je fais partie de la famille.
After knowing the truth, Wessam finally let go. Then they pried open the elevator and went in, but Wessam, who had just jumped down, was shot in the back of the head with a pistol by Bola. At Renee's urging, Bola decides to go his separate way from his brother and takes away their weapons. No matter how hard Adewale tried to persuade him, Bola refused to listen and mercilessly drove them out of the elevator. The hissing of zombies is getting closer and closer, and without weapons in their hands, they can only continue to run downstairs. But when they arrived at the first floor, they were stunned and frozen by the sight before them. The doorway was covered with a dense mass of zombies. Outside the door, there were a lot of zombies. Let people feel afraid, but fortunately, the guard's room next to the door had all kinds of weapons. Each of them chose their weapon, but Aurora pointed his gun at Adewale. It seems she hasn't forgotten what she came for, but Wessam stops her in time. After all, one more person is more powerful in this situation, but as soon as they came out of the room with their weapons, the zombies broke through the door's glass. Aurora behind them tried to stop the zombies, but there were too many of them, and when they managed to get to the basement and close the door, they were blocked by the zombies. The three of them tried to hold the attack of the zombies, but then the older man found Bola's backpack. Adewale looked in the direction of the backpack and found the mutated Renee. If he had not instigated it, Bola would not have died. Angry, Adewale avoided the vitals and shot him wildly, then grabbed him and kept smashing him against the wall until his head was smashed to pieces. Adewale is a vicious thug but very good to his brother. At this point, several people blocking the door finally closed the door, but the price was that Wessam was bitten on the palm of his hand. However, when they were ready to continue to run, they suddenly heard the sound of footsteps not far away. A large wave of zombies was coming. To cover the others to escape, the bitten Wessam stepped forward. He already knew the outcome of his. The three of them had just left, and the corpses swarmed. But at this moment, Wessam is already willing to die, his eyes determined to rush into the dense zombie. He rushed all the way and finally climbed into a small car. The zombies soon surrounded Wessam, and he roared in anger, then fired at the zombies with both guns. After the bullets are fired, he pulls out his machete until his last strength is exhausted. Wessam finally couldn't hold on and was overwhelmed by the zombies. On the other hand, the zombies attacked the three of them when they were escaping. Luckily, the older man's firepower was strong, and he used his machine gun to create a bloody path, but the zombies continued to flow. and the iron gate behind them is slow to open. After a round of shooting, the older man's bullets were soon exhausted. Seeing that the zombies were close at hand, the older man hurriedly asked Aurora to throw a grenade over and prepare to die with them. He did not care whether the two had escaped and decided to pull the safety of the grenade. Fortunately, at the last moment, the two opened the iron door outside the escape. The zombie also jumped the older man. He stuffed the grenade into the mouth of the zombie. After an explosion, the only two people left finally escaped, but Adewale doesn't know that Aurora behind her has never forgotten her revenge. He hadn't even recovered from the zombies when Aurora shot him with a pistol in the back of the head. Even in a zombie-infested apocalypse, Adewale's sins cannot be erased, not to mention that she saw his colleague die in front of her. Aurora eventually killed Adewale with a single shot.